is so good to see you yet again here at Hell in a Hallway with your host, Billy. We are at point 3 of understanding your potential, your potency, right? So the first video, I just kind of want to remind you, was the difference between power, potency, and purpose, right? And we had determined in that video that power comes from outside of yourself, right? It's a dirty kind of fuel. It requires the validation and the sight of others. We determined that potency, potential, lies within. It doesn't matter what's on the outside, because what you have is what you have. And remember, we talk about the apple and how the apples have apple seeds in them that's determined to make more apple trees that would allow to make an orchard, right? So within you lies a forest of potential. You just got to get to it. So part 2 was how perception is actually killing your potency, right? Because we have layers upon layers of trauma on top of our stuff. We have belief systems that we have acquired, and we have become an alignment and agreement with of how other people see us, therefore keeping us from achieving, realizing, and discerning our potential. So today is a little bit different. Today is about the steps to gaining access to your potential. So put your seatbelt on. Let's get it going. So I want you to remind yourself that your potency is not something that you have to find. It is something that you discern, which is a little bit different, right? Because when we're trying to find something, it's almost like we don't know where it is. No, it is there. It is inside. You just have to discern it, right? So in that last video was you doing the excavation process, right? So now let's look at the application process to that discernment, okay? So, like a seed that needs proper cultivation, you can't plant an apple seed in a sand and expect it to grow, right? It needs a proper environment. What environment are you around? You have to determine who you're around, what's your atmosphere, right? That will determine if you could discern your true potency, right? And then keep in mind, this includes people. Not every person should be in your circle, folks. Just saying. Also, you got to know, what are your perceived limitations? And that was largely part of what we talked about last time. What have you already decided about yourself, right? And let's talk about what I mean by that. Now, this we didn't talk about last time. What have you decided about your intelligence, about how smart you are? Educators have no idea of the power that they have, and their parents, because when we tell people they're dumb and they become in alignment with it, then it doesn't even matter what's inside them, because they're going to ascribe to the ceiling that was applied to them. They become in alignment with it. So intelligence is discerned and not determined. Other people don't get to decide that. You get to discern it, right? It is already within you. It is your potential, right? When individuals tell you again how smart or stupid you are, you got to be careful becoming in alignment with that, becoming in agreement, because you start to box yourself in according to other people's definition of your intelligence, and that's not what you want, right? Once you remove the layers of projections of limitations, you could determine your true capacity, right? The other, let's see, I have listed is self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is very different from self-esteem. We usually place a lot of value on self-esteem. And here's the thing. It's not that it's not important. It's just not the thing. It's a thing, but not the thing. What I would encourage you to look at is efficacy. Efficacy is your perceived ability to do something. What do you think you can do? Not who you think you are. That's esteem. Esteem is more about worth. Efficacy is more about ability, right? So what is your self-efficacy levels like, right? Have others discourage you about things that you're able to do or that you want to do? Have you become in alignment with that discouragement, right? So again, efficacy and esteem are not the same thing. Esteem is about your worth. Efficacy is about your ability. There are a lot of people in a lot of bad circumstances got high self-esteem, but they don't have high self-efficacy. All right, that's important. Those two do not mean the same thing. The other thing, let's get to that I want you to look at is, who are you surrounding yourself with? We have to be careful because we can become who we are around, and that is important. So I want to tell you this story about an eagle and chickens. You might have heard it before, but I think it's awesome, and I think it bears repeating. So I'm going to briefly read over it because it could be kind of lengthy. So a fable was told about an eagle who thought he was a chicken. When the eagle was very small, he fell from safety. Let's highlight that word, from his nest. There was a farmer who came by and saw the eagle on the ground. So he picked up the eagle and he said, you know what, I'm going to raise this eagle with my chickens. And so he did. And he said that eagle spent months around these chickens, and it started to believe it was a chicken. It didn't fly. It tried to cluck. It tried to do all these things. This eagle grew up doing everything the chickens did, right? Then this naturalist came by and he said, I heard you have an eagle that thinks it's a chicken. And the farmer said, oh, it's a chicken. By definition, now I can't lay eggs like chickens do in the same way, but you know, not chicken eggs rather, but it believes it's a chicken. Absolutely. I raised it with chickens. Yeah, you got it. However, the farmer said, which I thought was interesting, is that it is no longer an eagle. Wow, that's huge. It took away the definition of what it was just because of what it was surrounded with. Does that happen to you? Are you no longer who you are because of who you're around? We'll put a pin in that because I'm not finished with the story. So anyway, this farmer was a bit insulted that the naturalist was like, that is an ego. You are not doing that ego any service by allowing it to be with these chickens. You are minimizing it. It's an amazing big creature. It is a king of the sky. And here you have it clucking with the chickens, right? So the naturalist got upset and he took the eagle, right? And initially he took it out of his environment and he said, listen, you're an eagle. I want you to spread your wings. I want you to fly. And the eagle was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it refused to fly, and it was trying to cluck about, trying to be a chicken. So he kept working with him. He kept taking him further and further away from the chicken coop. And after so much time, and after he developed relationship with the naturalist, he started to believe the naturalist. He started to see who he was. And he took the risk one day. He spread his wings and he flew. He understood. And in that moment, something woke up in him and became alive. Let me tell you what's significant about that story. He didn't change. He always was. He just didn't know. Does that apply to you? Does that apply to you? That is so important. And here's let's back up about those chickens. Let's talk about those chickens. Those chickens weren't trying to do him any harm. Not at all. Those chickens were being who they are. Chickens. They're not even trying to keep him down. They're just being who they are. And guess what? That's okay for them. Not okay for you. If you are an ego, by God, be that. Be that. Do not make yourself small or live a life of comfortability by deciding to be with chickens all the time. because they're just going to do what they do. And they're not even trying to keep you down. They're just being who they are. But that ego didn't have to change into something else. He had to finally decide to look at who he really was. Right? So, let's go further. What do you feed yourself? Do you immerse yourself with things that will enhance you or take from you? Do things you immerse or you consume allow you to become brighter? Does it really feed your light, or does it feed your darkness, right? Does it feed your light, or does it feed your shadow? You know, I always encourage individuals to do shadow work. And what does that mean? What is shadow work? These are the dark parts about us, right? These are the not so positive things about who we are. Maybe we're a little messy. Maybe we are chaotic. Maybe we're selfish, you know. Maybe we're aggressive. Those are all the dark parts about us. And doing shadow work, which is a whole nother video, by the way, does not mean that we cut off those parts of who we are. It means we understand that we confront them. Because if you fail to do so, they will consume you. Real talk, because that's the truth. However, the things that you watch, the things that you read, what part of you does it feed? If it feeds darkness, you will only manifest darkness. If it feeds light, you will only manifest light. Hallelujah. So what are you feeding yourself? Okay. The last question I have is, what are you committed to, right? Are you committed to your self-development? Are you willing to be truly responsible to and for yourself? Okay? Can you look at yourself? Can you embrace the pain of not being who you truly are, so you can finally take this step to being who you really are? You have to be committed to this process. You have to recognize that it is a process. That is so important. I was working with this one guy, and he was talking about, oh, Billy, you know, I don't even understand. Every now and then I tend to relapse and go back into these old behaviors. I can't understand why I can't seem to get it together. And I said, how long you been doing this process? A few months. I was like, okay. Are the changes that are positive more often than the relapses? He was like, yeah. I was like, so then why are you focusing on just the relapses? See, you're feeding darkness. He's feeding his sense of inadequacy. But he's actually doing pretty good. Yes, we're going to fall off. We're going to miss the mark. But the goal is to get right back on, keep moving, feed the light. You are not a chicken. You are an ego. And you don't have to look for it, because you already are. Thank you for tuning in to this short clip on determining steps to determining your potency, your potential. I look forward to seeing you next time. We'll do something on shadow work. I think that's worthy of attention. And I appreciate seeing you guys again. Love you dearly. See you next time.